Have you ever heard of a centuries-old tradition according to which girls between the ages of 4 and 8 have their vaginal lips stretched to give pleasure to their future husbands? What about the LOBOLO? What if I told you that it is another tradition in which girls are exchanged for cows and money, and which guarantees the husband's family a second wife if the first one dies? Are you curious? Then wait and find out that there is even an app that calculates how many head of cattle the future wife is worth, and that filing for divorce after this ritual can even lead to death. You'll find out much more in today's video and our destination, Mozambique. Mozambique, officially known as the Republic of Mozambique, is a country located in the southeast of the African continent, bathed by the Indian Ocean, and bordering Tanzania, Malawi and Zambia, Zimbabwe and South Africa. Its history dates back to ancient times, and it was traditionally inhabited by various African peoples, such as the Bantu, whose activities included fishing and hunting. Foreign presence began with the Portuguese navigator Vasco da Gama, who explored the Mozambican coast and culminated in the annexation of the territory to Portugal. Portuguese rule lasted for about 4 centuries, characterized by intense exploitation of natural resources and labor, which contributed to increasing social inequality, a feature that persists in Mozambican society to this day. But resistance to colonial rule grew over time, and various independence movements began to emerge. In 1962, the Front for the Liberation of Mozambique was formed, which led the armed struggle against Portuguese rule that culminated in Mozambique's independence on June 25, 1975. And even this period is reflected in the national flag. The country is the only one to have a modern weapon on the flag. An AK-47 crossed with a hoe appears. The national symbol was instituted in 1983, and the weapon recalls the armed struggle that defended the country from colonialism. Independence brought with it a series of challenges, and the nation was faced with the need for post-war reconstruction, the consolidation of a national identity, and overcoming the ethnic and cultural divisions created during the colonial period. After independence, and with the abrupt departure of the Portuguese apparatus, the country began to experience serious difficulties, mainly financial. However, the joy of independence was quickly overshadowed by the shadow of civil war. Disgruntled groups, led by the opposition, resisted the new government. Ethnic and regional tensions fueled the conflict, and outside interests exacerbated the situation, turning Mozambique into a battleground that only ended with the signing of the Comprehensive Peace Agreement in 1992. With the end of the civil conflict, Mozambique has experienced some political and economic stability, especially in the last 30 years. However, the country is still considered one of the poorest in the world and faces political and socio-economic challenges, with about 70% of the population living below the poverty line. The country's population exceeds 20 million, and only 3% is over 60 years old. In fact, life expectancy is only 50 years. Illiteracy reaches 60%, and the HIV situation is worrying. It is estimated that in the 2000s, more than 12% of the adult population was infected, reaching 25% in some regions. But despite the ills, this country is incredible, and, although it is far from most travelers' maps, it has a lot to offer to those who venture here. Long beaches with dunes, cool palm trees, turquoise waters teeming with schools of colorful fish and well-preserved corals. Inhambane, known as the Land of the Good People by Vasco da Gama, is a remarkable example. The hospitality, smiles, and genuine interest of the locals make the experience in Mozambique truly special. When exploring places like the Central Market, the Church of Nossa Senhora da Conceição, and the Old Town, as well as strolling along the harbor and enjoying a coconut water, you will be greeted with warm smiles wherever you go. Tofo Beach is another must-see, as it is one of the most popular destinations for those looking for sun, surf, and kite surfing. However, the highlight is the scuba diving. This area is perfect for spotting humpback whales, manta rays, also known as stingrays, and whale sharks. The constant presence of dolphins in this magical place is simply unmatched. But Mozambique is not just about beaches, and Gorongosa Park is testament to that. After being severely affected by devastation during the Civil War, especially due to uncontrolled hunting, Gorongosa National Park has become one of the most impressive success stories in wildlife restoration and rehabilitation. The park experience offers a unique biodiversity, with cliffs, waterfalls, savanna, acacia trees, and a wide variety of species, such as elephants, lions, buffalo, zebras, hippos, and crocodiles. Finally, do not forget the island of Mozambique. This small island in the province of Nampula, which gave its name to the country and was its first capital, is rich in memories and history. Despite its small size, the island is home to buildings that tell the history of the country, and was recognized by UNESCO in the 1990s as a World Heritage Site. It is undoubtedly one of the country's most popular tourist destinations, whether for its beauty or its culture. For women, the typical costume of the island consists of a kimao, a type of traditional garment that covers the torso to the waist and is complemented by 3 or 5 capulanas tied at the waist. Capulana refers to the colorful patterned fabric used, and the reason for so many layers is to amplify the volume of the women's buttocks, highlighting the curvature of the waist and enhancing the hips. This tradition is so valued that women's wealth is often measured by how many of these fabrics they own and keep, accumulating dozens or even hundreds of them. But while we're on the subject of traditions and culture, let's not forget the masiro, a kind of beauty mask. On the coast and islands of northern Mozambique, it is common to come across women with their faces covered with a natural white mask extracted from the plant of the same name. The purpose of its use seems to have evolved over time. Today it is said that the musiro is only used to beautify the skin. But according to tradition, in the past, the use of masks implied other, more subliminal meanings related to the marital status of women. Among the various rituals still practiced in the country, the mathuna stands out. This ritual is actually a centuries-old practice, widespread among communities, part of a series of practices aimed at preparing girls for the sexual role, and is linked to the concern to provide greater satisfaction to the future husband. Through mathuna, girls still very young, between 4 and 8 years old, are subjected to stretching of the vaginal lips. The labia are massaged and stretched up and down with the thumb and index fingertips of each hand, and whoever fails to do so is not considered a woman. The lengthening process can take several months to reach a size of 3 to 4 centimeters, which is considered ideal. The godmother who accompanies the lengthening of the girl's lips is the one who defines when this process should be considered finished, since she attentively observes its progress. And since we are talking about controversial traditions, we have to talk about the lobolo. According to this tradition, the bride's family receives money for the loss of her marriage and her move to another house. The lobolo ceremony consists of giving goods in the form of livestock, money, clothes, and food, among other things, to the bride's family. Once these goods have been accepted and received by her family, the bride becomes part of the groom's family. The union goes something like this. The groom introduces himself, or the girl introduces her fiancé, with intermediaries, and later expresses his desire to live with her and asks for the conditions to formalize their marriage situation. Once he is willing to marry the girl, he arranges all the gifts, which consist of clothes for the bride's father, her mother, her maternal and paternal aunts, her maternal and paternal grandparents, 5 liters of wine, tobacco, some traditional drinks, and an agreed amount. There are families who, with poverty and the market economy, want to compensate for the expenses incurred for the girl's growth, health, and education, since once she graduates, she will work and earn for her husband's family. But the best or the worst, depending on the context, comes after the ceremony. The next day, the father and some members of the community go to the fortune tellers first thing in the morning to inquire about the satisfaction of their ancestors and to make sure that the money received is not associated with temptations or evil influences. They say that sometimes it is possible to receive money impregnated with negative energies. The expert fortune teller will identify these situations and give guidance on the measures to take. This traditional African ceremony is widely practiced in most of the regions south of the Sahara. In Mozambique, which has 3 distinct cultural regions, north of the Zambezi, south of the Save and the 2 rivers. But regardless of the region, the ritual serves several functions, including uniting the ancestors of the 2 families, the brides and the grooms, invoking the blessings of the ancestors for the new home, and above all, ensuring the bride's fertility. It also gives the bride the right to remain in her husband's home to care for the children, and, in the event of his death, allows her to continue having children with her husband's brother. In situations where the wife dies young, especially if she leaves minor children, her family may offer her son-in-law a girl to take care of her nephews, who will become her children, and she will take her deceased sister's place in the household. The dowry offered serves as a community fund for that family, clan. In a way, it is also an insurance policy, because annulling the marriage would require the return of the dowry, which could jeopardize the entire local economy. How can it affect the economy? Very simply, and I will give you an example. Many years ago, in Homoine, in Hombain province, a man killed his own sister and ended up in jail. The motive for the murder was that the sister wanted to file for divorce, which obliged her family to return the dowry to her husband. Her brother, for his part, had already used much of the dowry to woo his wife, so he would also have to divorce to return the assets. In other words, the dissolution of one union created the dissolution of other unions in a chain, completely destroying harmony in that society. The situation drove the brother to the brink of despair and ended tragically. Today, the Lobolo, like other rituals, has undergone changes in form and content, but still retains its social value. Surprisingly, the Lobolo has entered the age of new technologies, and an application has even been developed to facilitate the process. This application calculates the dowry a woman must pay, taking into account attributes such as age, weight, height, self-assessment of beauty, level of education, and marital history. For example, a 25-year-old employed woman who weighs 55 kilos, is 5'5" tall, self-assesses herself as beautiful, has a high school education and children, would have a dowry valued at $500 and no cows. In contrast, a similar woman, but with a higher level of education, no children and no marital history, could receive a dowry of $4,000 and 5 cows, according to the application's calculations. This modernization reflects the adaptation of cultural traditions to the contemporary context. Unbelievable, I know, but it's real. What about you? Did you know this country, and what did you think of these traditions? Tell us in the comments. If you liked the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to receive more amazing content. Thanks to all of you who have joined us, and see you next time.